Alright, so we're just going to do one part of 2.1 today. So the things we're going to be talking about are quadratic functions, so something that looks like x squared, and you'll be able to recognize quadratic functions graphically and algebraically, so as a function and on a graph. You'll be able to write the standard equation for a quadratic function, and you'll be able to determine the vertex of a parabola, which is the shape a quadratic function makes on a graph. Okay, so typically when you've learned about quadratic functions, you've talked about how to set it equal to 0 and solve for x using the quadratic formula. So here's just a form of a quadratic function, and a equals negative b plus or minus square root x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're not going to do much with this. I just wanted to remind you all of what a quadratic function will look like. And so this is an equation set equal to 0. Okay, so a lot of times when we talk about a quadratic formula, a quadratic function, we talk about the shape it makes on a graph. So the shape it makes is a parabola, which is like this U shape, and it could be facing up or it could be facing down. And so there are some very important parts. Let me zoom in a little bit. So there are some very important parts of a parabola that we can talk about. We can talk about the vertex, so it's this point at the either bottom or very top of a parabola. Also, there's an axis of symmetry, so it's this vertical line such that on each side the parabola looks the exact same. And another thing is the formula, so the standard equation for a parabola or a quadratic. It's going to be a times x minus h squared plus k, which looks kind of complicated, but we can pull out the different pieces. So let's start with h and k. So those are actually points on the graph. H is the x value, k is the y value, and it represents the vertex. All right, so h is the x value of the vertex, k is the y value of the vertex. All right, same over here. And the other part that's unknown is a, so this is just talking about like how wide our parabola opens, but the most important part is whether a is positive or negative. So if a is positive, our parabola is going to open up. So a is positive. All right, and if a is negative, our parabola opens down. All right, so these are the main things you want to remember about our parabola, and this is our standard equation of a parabola. All right, so let's use that standard equation and figure out from a graph what our standard equation is. Okay, so I gave you some options here. So what's the main part we have to figure out? Well, we have to determine what our h is and what our k is. And remember, that's just the vertex. So let's look here. What is the vertex of this parabola? It's this point here. So that's at -2 and 4. Perfect. So we can use this to write out our equation, right? So from above, if you can see it, we don't know what a is, but that's okay. X minus h, we said our h was -2, plus k, which is 4. All right, so this would be our standard form depending on what a is. Luckily, a is just 1 in these cases. So which one does it match up with? It's actually b. So this is the equation, the standard equation of our parabola based on this graph.